Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 14 reflex points, what creates negative behavior to the horse and movements which we don't necessarily desire on the horse. And I'm very happy to see Dr. Angel again. Hello, Angel.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And so excited on this topic because we talked about several reflex points before, but today we're going to talk about the bladder meridian point 13, which is also known as a lung meridian point. We have a lot of opinions in saddle fittings. We have a lot of opinions when it comes to saddle selling or how a saddle should sit for or for the horse or on the horse or for the rider. But when it comes to saddle fitting from the horse's point of view, it's pretty straightforward. You know, there are certain areas the saddle shouldn't hit, and then sometimes creates quite a bit of a problem. So, and this is why we do what we do, and we show you and like to help you and identify these reflex points, which is not always pleasant to the horse. So let me start like I always do, just a little intro. These are the 14 points what I'm talking about. We talked about in the past from other ones. So if you haven't seen any of those episodes before, I encourage you to please look at this. Today, we're going to talk about this little guy there. That's the BL13, the bladder meridian point 13. Now, over the time of saddle making and people with horses, they always look for it. Like, check this out, 7,000 years. This is the book from a saddle historian who written that people always try to get the best optimization between man, horse, and saddle. So obviously, this is a topic which has been always on humans' mind, to the part where the military learned how to identify certain areas like the back area here, what I circle. They call that the ring of lights, make it very simple. And then identify where the mane ends. So they are called that in the old days, mapping the horse. Mate lines such as this one, how far the army saddle, packing saddle, western saddle sits from 1, 2, 3. But the weight-bearing surface should be always on top of the rib cage between line 2 and 3, and while they're trying to align the soldier or the rider with the center of gravity of the horse, which will shift throughout the years of the horse's training. Here, these again the points. Here you see the rib cage from the top. You can see how the rib cage goes narrow towards the front right here. So girth and saddle always wants to slide forward. It's just gravity. And in the back area, how we want to stay away. Last time we talked about the bucking reflex points. And the main area where we want to focus is on the center of the longest muscle, the belly of the muscle, the longissimus dorsi. So these are the pictures I always show where humans put saddles. And then we have on top of the saddle, the human. The human is just as important to fit in the saddle as a horse, but today we focus on the horse. Not only for a standing horse, but for a moving horse. So when the leg goes forward, the upper arm of the horse pushes the scapular. Look at this horse here. Look how far this comes back. Upwards, backwards. So we don't want to hit the cartilage or don't want to put damage to the horse's spot, what we call the lung meridian point. We also need to address the fact that many people ride the horses too early. Even if I start my horses 3, 3.5, the scapula hasn't even developed until it's 4. Look at that, 4 years old. And I hear this often, I fit my saddle when my horse is matured. Well, when 6? The horse changes all the time, because when I put weight on an animal, what is not by nature meant to carry weight, right, then the serratus and the pectoralis, which are drawn down here, will get wider, weaker, depends what you do with the horse. That changes the angle and the width of the tree, no matter what saddle you have. So when we talk about the lung meridian point, that little blue guy up there, okay, you can see just on the edge, on the top of the shoulder blade, the cartilage, and you wanted to focus that your saddle sits in the green zone and none of the red zones. Why is that so important? Only then. This picture here is done at the University of Davis, 2 vet techs holding the spine, what they call in the neutral position. You can see how the spinal process is falling back, then they're standing straight, and then they fall forward. So when the horses graze, right, then this comes up and all these spaces elongate. Now, if you hit, your saddle hits one of the red zones, you achieve the opposite for the first 20 minutes. They go down and then they touch, and then we have a problem in the making. So here is the reason why this is such an important factor. The respiratory health is at jeopardy if the girth, especially saddle, hits the edge of that cartilage right there, the bladder meridian point 13, also known as the lung meridian point. So I'm going to give you an analogy how we humans know when we are in stress. We are in stress when something really makes us mad, and then all of the nowhere, my heart's starting to pound very, very hard, and I get really angry. And to the fact that that can be sometimes life-threatening to humans. So the medical industry draws blood, and when they see, oh, you have a lot of cortisol level in your blood, that's a sign of stress. So we need to lower our stress. Now, we humans are predators. We know how to deal with this. We fight back. We find all kinds of excuses. Or we hopefully listen to the doctor or the psychiatrist or whatever can lower my stress and bring down my blood pressure or my heart rate. So, Dr. Angel, on horses, when they get artificial heart rate increase, what is the sign? What's the danger for the animal if we ignore the pressure on the bladder meridian point?
Yeah, so it's actually quite similar with horses as people. Like you said, they'll have an increase in heart rate and they do feel anxious. Especially with this point, it's very important because it also, in addition to affecting their respiratory health, it will also decrease their immune system overall. So horses that have this point stimulated chronically can have a lot of immune issues. They could have, allergies, hypersensitivities, things of that nature. And it's also common for horses that have this point stimulated to be very anxious, to just have, anxiety, not really relaxing like they should, which obviously over time can cause health issues as well. So if you have horses that have, chronic respiratory issues like your COPD horses, which we do see quite commonly here in Florida, horses with skin allergies, hypersensitivities to bugs, things of that nature, you want to make sure that you're not stimulating this point with your saddle or, the way that you're riding, because it can over time definitely have that effect on the horse. It is a pretty powerful point when you stimulate it.
Mm-hmm. We all, when we have horses, it's so hard to keep a horse sound. I always call them the elephant in the porcelain shop. They always break something, or there's always something going on. There's such a, through the overbreeding of the animal and over the size, and also over the human to become taller and heavier over the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's hard as this for these animals. And like you said, in Florida, you'd be dealing here in Florida with other weather than maybe in Wisconsin or in Alaska. We have different soil, I understand. And also we have different bugs, and if and equipment makes it even worse, why bother? Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the whole issue. Now I heard if a horse, a flight animal, goes into stress, flight or fight is the only way to get away. But if they are not get away, they're in the barn or they're under the saddle, and they don't fight back because it gets cowboyed, the horse, or broken in. I hate these terms, but you heard them in the industry.
Yes.
So the horse cannot run away,
can't
fight, and can't fight because the human somehow is stronger, more dominant, whatever. So they go internal. I heard that it also could lead to increase in colics and ulcers. Can that be?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So they start to shut down a bit, and definitely ulcers are quite common. Yeah, you can definitely see that happening.
I heard once when a horse is out in the field, and one of the things what I learned from Dr. Tracy Turner, he said to me, when you watch a horse go under the saddle, watch the first 8 circles. And in the first 8 circles, the horse should be soft in his eye, ears nice and loose, the head relaxed, and he should as if he chews a chewing gum. He should chew, not excessively biting the bit. But even if you ride bitless, he should be able to chew and lick. And in less than 8 circles, he better has a little lipstick. And in less than 10 minutes, he should drool. So I says, why is that so important? And then he said to me, you know, when a horse chews roughage and he chews, he creates that saliva, what breaks down the acid, and therefore less ulcers, less colics. Now, if a horse is in stress, because of whatever reason, and we talk about the bladder meridian point, artificial heart increase, right? But any other stress, he says, they go like this.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, that's true. You're not going to see that licking and chewing in the releases.
Right. And that's what you're looking for when you do the treatment and you work on the horse and all the courses you teach. And simple egoistically talking, as let's say I'm a trainer, I have 6 horses to ride. And if I have to ride a horse for 20 minutes numb, that's 2 hours wasted out of my time. Plus, I trained a horse for 20 minutes upside down, because a horse they are the masters of disguise when it comes to pain, right? They don't want beaten. Yeah, so I find it fascinating, but you know what, you probably see this every day in your field. The more you know, the more you're saying, oh my God, you open the can of worm. Now I see all these issues.
Definitely.
You know, when this veterinarian, I got to learn her last name probably, but next episode I will have it on Nenny's. She's from New Zealand. She travels around the world and she offers dissection classes to the everyday rider. She goes to different universities, and sometimes she brings a harness, a saddle, and this is a horse on the side, and you see here this skin is off here. You can see the scapular still, and she puts that tree on top and says, you know, that tree is way too narrow in the tree width. In English trees, we will measure from D-ring all the way across to D-ring. Says when that saddle sits here with padding, it needs to be wider than the shoulder blade. And then from the D-ring down to the tip, that's the angle what should match this angle. Says, well, the angle matched, but the width is too narrow. Kind of like this is the same angle, but different width. Right? So, and then she says, well, on top of the cartilage, we see them sometimes damaged. And this is where we find the bladder meridian point. So we don't want to really ignore the fact that the tree has to be an issue. So how to identify my saddle could maybe be an issue here. So look if your horse has dry spots. Okay, so this is a postmortem. This horse here had a lot of issue on the withers. This is the pictures I got from Dr. Weishaupt from the University of Zurich. Sometimes I have horses I take off and you see all these wrinkles in the skin. You know, skin has 7 different layers, and when you start shearing the skin, this is called shearing the skin. Sometimes simple things like, like a saddle pad issue. When we see white hair, we see often white hair underneath a stirrup bar or in the back of the cantle, where the rider sometimes sits heavy into it. And then if we have these dimples, the atrophy at the insertion of the trapezius or splinalis, you know, that's something you really need to pay attention to. And then most likely you see the big dips behind the shoulder. So if a horse has these dips and the scapula wants to go back, it will hit that lung meridian point. Now, why do we have so much information now? Number one, we have the internet. There's a lot of information been out there, but it hasn't been traveled that much. What also we need to know, horses' entire physique has changed because the working animal, this is a horse picture from a horse what went to the 1972 Olympics. Okay, the horses, the rider who rode in Germany says that horse was also his father plowing my father's field. So horses had other jobs than just look pretty and prance around the dressage ring. Okay, so they were actually working animals. And for working animals, you saw horses with much wider chest, not oversee large legs, and not super long necks. And the back was more rectangle. If you had a square horse like that, that was very rarely seen. More rectangle, right? Was a working horse. Now we see an upside down rectangle, which is absolutely horrible. Why is that horrible? Well, egoistically speaking, as a saddle fitter, I'm looking from the side. I call it the shiny lines. Okay, these shiny lines is an old soldier's trick. You can go to the end of the mane, or you look for the shiny lines, and that is the distance the saddle can sit up there. That's a area to avoid the negative reflex point. That can't be more than 14 inches. That's the horse what is 16.3. That horse has such a long legs. Angel, you've seen that, Dr. Angel, you've seen that before. These overbred horses that can't even pace. They need to go on the knees to go down. That's unnatural. That would never be existing. So this is what I meant with overbreeding. So the reason I show people this, we have larger people who need larger saddles, but the industry breeds horses what are shorter in the saddle support area. So we're going against two forces.
Yeah.
So here we see the ring of light, typical picture from 8 saddles out there, 10 saddles, 8 of them sit in the lumbar area. What has that to do with lung meridian point? The horse is articulate and will push that saddle forward. 100%. He will not tolerate pressure. You can sit bareback here and he will go very funny. Most likely will buck you off because you see how thin these spinal transverse processes are. So you really don't want to sit on that. So then the saddle goes forward and you see often that the saddle bridges, and then you see what we call the flank line or the holding line. Right? You see that often, and you see it often on Western saddles when the flare in the bar in the back is not high enough, or in the front, and then it drives into the front. So of course the problem here is, oh my God, my horse looks like, oh my God, I don't want my horse to look like. I'm going to call Dr. Angel. I'm going to call Jochen. I'm going to see what can I do. I think first and most important is to recognize, how do I know my saddle sits on the bladder meridian point? And before we answer that question, we need to also know, where is this lung meridian point? I need to identify all these points. This is why Dr. Angel and I do this. So you learn where these points are. But before we answer this, maybe, Dr. Angel, you can maybe explain a little bit what services you offer once a horse been through this trauma and the problem has been solved. What is the best approach for me if I have a horse and say, oh my God, I want my baby to be taken care of? What's the best?
Yeah, definitely. So as you mentioned, one of the most important things is being able to identify that it's happening. And then also just becoming a bit familiar with the anatomy, be able to find that scapula and be able to, recognize where these points are so you can tell with where your saddle is and if it's sitting where it should be on the horse's back. So there's a few ways that you can do that. We do have online courses. We have courses that will go into anatomy. We actually have a free course. If you go to our website, you can either go to angelsanimals.com or holisticanimalstudies.net, but we do have a free course that just teaches horse owners how to evaluate their horse. It teaches you how to do gait analysis. It teaches you how to palpate them, because a lot of people just don't know how to recognize these signs. And as you mentioned earlier too, a lot of horses are very stoic. Being prey animals, they don't really want to let you know when they're not feeling good, because in the wild, if they let a predator know that they're not feeling good, they're going to be the one that gets picked off first. So they can be quite stoic about it. So it's just getting to know your horse, getting to know what their norms are, being able to palpate them, feel for different changes. And that's definitely something that you can learn online. You can also go to our website and find a practitioner near you if you want to have a professional come out and evaluate your horse and help you with that as well. So there's definitely some different options as far as that goes. But like you were mentioning, it's so common nowadays to see these horses with these shorter backs. And it is a problem because a lot of times, and it's hard to say this to people, but a lot of times people are too big for their horse. And the reality is, if they need a saddle that's going to sit, past those points, it comes down to, like, it's hard to say it to a client sometimes, but definitely they need a saddle that fits correctly. And if that saddle doesn't fit the rider, then maybe they need a different mount so that they have a horse that is more suited for them. But no, definitely everything that you're mentioning, it's quite common to see nowadays. And first, you definitely have to fix the saddle is going to be your first step, because you need to make sure that you're not putting any more pressure on those points. Because as long as if we go in and we fix the back and we do, like, we have an acupressure course as well, which this point and a lot of other points, you'll learn some really cool stuff. Acupressure is amazing. It's based off of the Chinese medicine meridians. So you can learn about the different meridians and how they affect different organs and things. And we do have a course for horse owners that just want to learn this for their own horses. And we have courses for professionals that want to, you know, add acupressure to their practices. But you'll learn just how important these points are. So yeah, if you're constantly stimulating a certain point, it's going to affect the animal over time. So it's definitely very, very important. First to be aware of it, and then also to know, you know, make sure you have the tack on them that's not overstimulating that point. And then following up with body work to make sure that you're reducing any kind of, you know, whatever's going on there, compensations, they're going to move differently. Because when you overstimulate that point, it's definitely going to alter the movement of your horse. So your horse is going to move in a way that it shouldn't be, and that's going to lead to degeneration over time, and it lead to arthritis in the back and, you know, things of that nature. So it's definitely something that you don't want to let that happen, you know, on a regular basis.
Now I'm going to be mean, and I'm going to say to you, why do you give this away for free? Or why do you even educate customer? Wouldn't it be nice if they all have the problems and they keep coming back to you?
Well, we want to help the horse, right? So what it comes down to is educating people so that they can do the right thing for the horse. And then if you want to learn further, I mean, we do have courses that you can enroll in and purchase that will give you more knowledge. But as far as, I think every horse owner should just have the knowledge of how to notice if their horse is moving incorrectly, how to be able to get their hands on them and know if there's inflammation, if there's atrophy of a muscle, if there's, you know, a certain muscle that's being overworked or underworked. It's just really important for the owners to be able to just have a basic understanding of anatomy and of their horse and what's going on with them. So we give it away for free so they can know, because, you know, knowledge is power. And then once they know, then they can make an educated decision on what they want to do to fix it.
Yeah, I think you and I are so alike. And there's an old biblical saying, you know, everything you give away free, you get 10 times back. And I like to say, you and I get it 1,000 times back, because when we help an animal or somebody says, hey, I did this course, what you mentioned last time, and I learned so much and it helped my horse so much, that emotional paycheck, you can't put a value on it. And this is why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
And in our industry, we need to have you guys share this information with your friends. As a matter of fact, my old riding master used to say to me, it is a horseman's duty to teach what you learned to your children or to your students or to your army, because it takes 3 human lives to learn anything about the horse. So by today's technology, like internet, we are able to provide that. And like you said, you know, to hurt the customer, hey, you know, okay, we didn't make a lot of money from you by giving you a free course, because at the end of the day, we need to buy ourselves hay for the horses as well. So what's in for us? What's in for us besides the emotional paycheck is you have, like you just said, Dr. Angel, the choice of making an educated decision. And sometimes it's such a rewarding when you feel this rewarding feeling, oh, wow, I did it for my baby. Most likely the majority of people say, I want to learn that anatomy course he's offering. And look at that. It's really not that expensive, and I can do it from home. You know what we really should do? And Mia, who is in our background, can add to this YouTube the website you mentioned. You said it so fast. Next time I'm going to put it on your slide. But also maybe the courses you mentioned, Dr. Angel, would be really cool. So people who look at this, they can just click on it. Check it out, guys. You will not regret it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get that link over to her so she can add it in the comments. Because we offer a lot of courses. So I think we have about a handful of them that are free at this point, so that people can go ahead and just start educating themselves through that. And then we have a ton of courses based on if you want to do this for a living, if you're already doing something like this for a living, you just want to add new modalities, or if you're just a horse owner that wants to do it for your own horses. And we have dog courses too. So if you want to do it for all of your animals, you can. But definitely, we do have a wide array of courses ranging from massage and acupressure, learning how to use like cold laser therapy. And then if you're professionals, you can get into body alignment, craniosacral therapy. We even have nutrition courses because it's so important that you're feeding the horse correctly too. When we talk about ulcers and stress as well, I mean, if a horse is not getting the forage that they need throughout the day, they are going to be stressed and they will develop ulcers and other issues. So it all comes hand in hand. So it's definitely a good way to learn how to, you know, look at it from a holistic perspective and make sure your horse is getting everything that they need.
Do I have to come to your place, or do you offer this online as well?
So the courses are online, yeah. So we have students in over 30 countries. You can take the whole thing online, but if you want to learn from me, you can come to my place. And I do have I have a room that I can rent out, and I have a beautiful facility, and you can come and we'll practice the techniques together. And I travel. I'm actually going to be in Asia this next month. I'm going to be in Australia, New Zealand in November. So I may be coming somewhere near you too. So yeah, definitely you can do both, but the majority of our students do it completely online from their location at their own pace. Our courses don't expire, so you will always have access to it. You can take as long as you need to complete it. And it's one of those things where it's like, you can't really make a bad investment when you enroll in one of them.
Phenomenal. So to summarize today's topic, we talked about the Lung Meridian point. Start by looking at the end of the mane. Slide your finger slowly down, and you will come to the edge of the scapula. On rounder pony horses, a little harder to feel. On standardbreds, galloper, like race horses, you can almost see it. Thoroughbreds, right? But most of the time, it is the edge of the shoulder blade is what you're looking for. And when you put your saddle on it, you want to look underneath the concha of the Western saddle. Here back behind me, this is the concho in the back. They have another concho in the front at the swell. And on the English saddle, jumping or dressage, they all have a D-ring. So put that saddle on the spot where you put normally the saddle, and then all you need is a pencil. And you want to see when you put the saddle on the horse, no saddle pad, no girth, no rider, just loosely on top. And you take a pencil, you put it in between the pommel or the swell of the cantle, and that pencil has to fall down minimum of 4 inches from the side of the withers, underneath the D-ring of the English, underneath the D-ring of the Western. If that's not the case, most likely before you put the pad on, the girth on, the rider on, you already could take a heart monitor, what doesn't cost much. You can get those for $39 these days. All endurance riders have it. And you can listen when the saddle is on, and you can see, you got to be kidding me. The heart rate is already up. I don't even have girth up the saddle. So this is why this topic is so important. Whoever have a saddle, what constantly does it to it, get it fixed. The majority of the saddle, either with proper padding, you can do it. And if you have it fixed, get your horse checked out at Dr. Angel's online courses, what you can do to recover them, not recover, to help them as much so they can recover fast enough, so they don't go in these long-term damages. As always, Dr. Angel, it was a pleasure to talk to you. And I can't wait till next time. And if I don't talk to you, be safe, have a super trip.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Yep. Thank you so much. It was great.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.